Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdheck.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC, healthy people, healthy communities. In it together and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, presenting Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Log on to columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Services. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their lives. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, contact Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. And Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID, brought to you by SCDHEC. In it together, the Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Happy Thursday. I'm Tre Tailor, and today we are coping with history, women's history. On this final day of Women's History Month, we are celebrating with a conversation with two ladies who were the first in Columbia, South Carolina law enforcement. Estelle Young was the first African-American ever captain with the City of Columbia. Captain Young, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Tre.
Absolutely. And Ethel Greene was the first African-American and first female patrol officer with the City of Columbia. Ms. Greene, we thank you so much for joining us today. Oh, is she there? We can't hear her. Oh, you know what? Oh, okay. Thank you. So can you hear me, Miss Ethel? She might not be able to hear me. Okay, now she can't hear me. We're going to put her back down, make sure she can hear me. Those two ladies are going to join us next. Looking forward to a fascinating conversation. That's what we're coping with today. I'm Tre Tailor. We'll be back with more with those ladies. But first, your COVID community updates. Congratulations to the Lady Gamecocks player Aaliyah Boston and Coach Dawn Staley are the Naismith Player and Coach of the Year. It's only the second time a Gamecock player has won the award, with the first being Asia Wilson in 2018. This is Staley's second Naismith Coaching Award. Earlier, she was named the National Coach of the Year by the U.S. Basketball Association. The Naismith Awards were given out yesterday in Minneapolis, where the team is competing in the NCAA Women's Final Four. Now, tomorrow, Dr. Jane Kelly will join us for another COVID update. She's going to discuss the new round of booster shots and who should get one, the move to end mask mandates, and the recent news that coverage for COVID vaccines and treatment will end for the uninsured. That and more tomorrow on Coping with Tre Tailor. Listen, SCDHEC has your most up-to-date list of times, dates, and location for COVID testing and vaccines in and around South Carolina. Visit scdheck.gov for more information. Now, scrolling at the bottom of the screen throughout the show, you'll see information on a myriad of things, including where you can get your 5 free rapid tests from covidtest.gov. COVID testing in and around South Carolina for veterans at CVS, Walgreens, Brooklyn Baptist Church. Also, the Comet bus system is not only offering COVID vaccines at their locations, they also offer you a free ride to get your vaccines. You'll also see information about help for online registration if you need it, and financial resources that are available, including FEMA's COVID funeral reimbursement, the South Carolina Bar Association and SC Legal Services free number and website for mortgage help, Lexington County Bill Assistance, SC Housing and Dominion Energy. And also you'll see information scrolling at the bottom of the screen throughout the show about SC Hopes. If you have a challenge coping with COVID, they have a 24-hour assistance line. Now, tomorrow is the deadline for First Steps. They're offering funding to host events to get kids ready for kindergarten. You can visit firststeps.org for more information. City of Columbia is hiring 9 to 11 every Wednesday. Spectrum is hiring 350 full-time workers in their West Columbia site. All of that information and so much more will be scrolling at the bottom of the screen throughout the show. You're watching Coping with Tre Tailor. I'm Tre Tailor, and we are streaming live on the TaylorMade production page on Facebook. That's the home of Coping with Tre Tailor. Please go over there, hit like and share and follow. And not only will you get all of your COVID-related updates, you'll get notifications as to when we go live Wednesday, which is Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council. And then, of course, on Thursday and Friday. We're also streaming live on our YouTube channel. Please go over there and hit subscribe. Please hit the subscribe button, and you can watch past episodes of Coping with Tre Tailor. We've been on the air. This is also our anniversary, 2 years this month. We started right after the pandemic hit, and we have been going 2 years strong. Congratulations to all of us. Also, we have a presence on Twitter and also on Instagram. Now, coming up, we are going to continue our celebration of Women's History Month by talking to 2 women in the city of Columbia who were groundbreakers, in history makers in South Carolina. Coming up next, Estelle Young and Ethel Greene. That's next on Coping with Tre Tailor.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Aiken-Cochran. As Miss America, I know that taking care of yourself is important. Part of taking care of your health is knowing if you're at risk of type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes is serious and puts you at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. 90% of South Carolinians who have it don't know they have it. Visit inittogethersc.org. Take an online test to find out your risk and join a diabetes prevention program. Brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina.
The Comet gives me a reliable source of transportation.
It's very convenient to me, and they have wonderful drivers.
It's clean and it builds community. It's fun to meet people.
It makes me feel like really independent. It's just fun.
Comet's always going to be there and it gets me everywhere I need to go.
We try to ride every single day. Comet is our livelihood.
Computers, they're a part of our everyday lives. But when they're not working, they're an everyday problem. So call Computers Unique, your everyday solution. 803-351-5821. Is your computer running slow? Won't turn on? Do you need a screen replaced? Or maybe you just need another computer? Well, Computers Unique is your one-stop shop for all your computer needs. They have a wide variety of new and pre-owned PCs, Macs, and tablets. So call Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. 803-351-5821. 803-351-5821.
I'm Tre Tailor, and you are watching Coping with Tre Tailor. And today we are continuing our celebration of Women's History Month by interviewing 2 women who are first in Columbia and South Carolina law enforcement. Estelle Young was the first African-American and first captain with the city of Columbia. We're also joined by Miss Ethel Greene, who was the first African-American and first female patrol officer. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. I am honored to be in the midst of greatness.
Thank you very much for having us.
Absolutely. Miss Ethel, can you hear us? She must not. Can you hear us? She must not be able to hear us. Oh, I'm not sure why. Miss Ethel, can you hear us? I don't think she hears us.
Can you hear us, Ethel?
I hear you, Estelle.
But you don't hear me? Oh, wow. You don't
I
hear
hear
me.
you.
You don't hear me. Well, that's the problem. I'm not sure why you don't hear me, Miss Ethel. I'm going to put you down. You don't hear me. You can hear
I
Miss.
have a bad connection.
Yeah, you don't hear me. Golly. Well, we're going to go on. Hopefully, you'll be able to hear me. That's odd that you can hear Captain Young and you can't hear me. Can you hear? Did you hear me just now? No. All right. We're going to put her down, but we'll keep her up and then maybe her connection. Miss Ethel, you know what? I am going to, Charity, if you will.
If you're talking to me, I can't hear. I can't hear anyone.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have my producer to put you back down.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm going to ask someone to call you and Miss Ethel, tell her I'm going to have Tasha to call her to help her. Captain Young, can you tell her that since she can hear
Yeah,
you?
but I don't see her
You don't see her anymore.
anymore.
All right, don't worry about it. All right, we're gonna try to get Miss Ethel up and running. But first, Captain Young, listen, I want to tell you, when I first moved to Columbia, and I've lived here since 2001. I came right after 9/11. You were just always so lovely and gracious to me, and you really kind of took me in and my son in as one of your own. So this is just such a special interview for me to do with you. Tell me, did you always want to be in law enforcement?
No. It's amazing. I saw a lot of things happening that was unpleasing to me. And I felt that the only way I could make a difference was to become a part of the Columbia Police Department. Prior to that, Trey, I was a beautician.
Wow.
And seeing so many things happening, I said, I need to go into law enforcement.
Wow,
so
really?
I can make a difference.
As a beautician, that's crazy.
Yeah. And most of the beauty shops, black beauty shops, were on Washington Street. So you got a chance to see a lot of things going on out of the window.
Right.
And as I looked at it, I went, I don't see any of us. So I need to join them,
right,
so they can see more of us.
Now, and in us, you mean not only women, but African American.
African American women.
Yeah.
And that was my thrust. I need to make a difference.
Yeah.
And that's what made me go into law enforcement.
So the first thing you did, as we see here, you were a meter maid. That's one of the first jobs you got when you got to the Columbia Police Department.
That was the first job that I had. Yes.
Right. So how was it as a meter? And a meter maid is someone who puts the money or writes the tickets if you are parking too long, right?
Right. If your meter expires.
Right.
Yeah. That was fun. It was different. And because it wasn't a whole lot of African American females out there, we took a lot of flack.
Right.
People would say, you're not going to put a ticket on my car, or, they would curse us out.
Wow.
Not because they was getting the ticket, but because we were Black and giving them a ticket.
Yeah. Captain Estelle Young joins us on Coping with Tre Tailor. It's Women's History Month. We're wrapping up the month of March by talking to two women who broke barriers in Columbia law enforcement, Estelle Young and also Ethel Greene joins us. We're going to try to get her back up. Miss Ethel, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can, Trey. Thank you.
Hallelujah. Good. So great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for logging off and logging back on. I was asking Captain Young about why she got into law enforcement. Is that something that you always wanted to do?
No, it wasn't. I lived in Washington, D.C. in the late 60s, and I was a teletype operator for the police department.
Wow.
And when they opened the field for females, a lot of the male dispatchers, they encouraged me to take the exam, and I did. In 1970, I applied, and in 1971, I got a letter saying I was hired. So,
wow.
Growing up with 10 siblings in a rural area on a farm, I was a tomboy. I was a tomboy back in the day, and so it wasn't strange for me to do or want to do physical things.
Right.
So I joined the force in DC in 1971.
Now, when you joined in DC in 1971, what was your first position?
I was a patrol officer.
You were a patrol officer there. Okay.
Yes, I was a patrol officer. Well, females weren't working on the street. I take that back. Correction. We worked in offices, different offices over the city. And when the chief mandated that females go on the street, I was one of 200 women to be first on the streets, patrol the streets in DC. And that's the pictures right there.
Yeah, yeah.
In the background. So in 1973, got a call from South saying my mother was terminally ill. She had several months to live. So I came back home to assist my siblings to help with my mother. And,
now, was that
so
here
I came,
in Columbia?
Yeah, my mother lives here she lived here in Gadsden, South Carolina.
Okay,
that's where
Columbia
I was
area. Yeah, yeah.
That's where I was born and raised here in Gadsden. So in 73 April, my brother called and told me they had opened the field for females here in Columbia. So I came home, took the exam, passed. I got a letter in July of 73 saying they gave me until September 1st to accept or decline. So I did, I accepted. And September 12th of 73, I started training with the City of Columbia Police Department.
Wow.
And
we're talking to Ethel. That's Ethel Greene, first African-American and female patrol officer here in Columbia, South Carolina. Captain Estelle Young also joins us, first African-American and captain with the City of Columbia. Ms. Greene, I want to ask you, you had already done similar work in DC. Do you think that helped you get your position in Columbia?
Yes, I think it did. I think it did. It was a smooth transition. And the chief of police said that he had high hopes for me and that I would be an addition. When I started in 73 here in Columbia, there was only one police station that was on Washington and Lincoln.
Right.
When they arrested females in other parts of the city, they would have to bring them all the way back to Washington and Lincoln Street for the matron to search them or what have you. But I was detailed out after 2 or 3 months on the job. I was detailed out to work with the investigative division, and that was a plus. I enjoyed that, working undercover, as you would say.
Right. Captain Young, let me ask you, did you came before Miss Ethel, right? You were already there? Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, I was there as a meter maid,
right,
in 1968.
Yeah, 68.
1970. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you guys have the occasion of ever, knowing each other and being able to work together and be able to share some of what you were experiencing?
Well, Estelle, let me go first. When I first came to the city, Estelle was working in the office in administration, and she was one of the first to greet me. Yeah. So we had a bond from that day until I entered the academy. So I tried to get her to go to the academy with me, but she said she had a young son, and he was still in high school, and that she probably would think about it. So many times I asked her to join me at the academy. When I first started, I didn't go to the academy directly. I trained on 4 walking beats. And after being trained on 4 walking beats, I then entered the academy. I think it was about 8 weeks back then, 8 or 10 weeks. It's been a long time ago, 49 years.
Yeah.
8.
And it was a very pleasant experience. In my time with the city, I experienced no racial, disturbances. No racial disturbances. They all accepted me as one of the guys.
Right.
So
Want to say hi to Danielle Lake. She says, thank you, ladies, for your sacrifice and service. Thank you, Danielle, for watching. Also, Kay Span Bird says, great to see these two ladies. Kay Bird says she knows Estelle Young very well. Thank you, Miss Bird, for watching. Please post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses, because these two ladies should be honored and celebrated. They were recently on the float at the Black History Parade last month, and it's Women's History Month, and they've done, you know, several TV shows that I've seen, but I wanted to definitely put the spotlight on them because they made history and broke barriers here in Columbia, South Carolina. So Miss Ethel says, Captain Young, she asked you, hey, why don't you come to the academy with me? And did you think you wanted to do it? But just like Miss Ethel said, it was just that you had young children at the time?
Yeah, I wanted to, but I had my son and my niece. And I knew once you join as a patrolman, all of your time was given to that department. And my kids was at an age where they needed me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So both of you worked administration. Captain Young, you were meter maid. And Miss Ethel, you said you didn't see any racism. What about you, Captain Young? I know you said when you were trying to give out the tickets as a meter maid, you saw some. What about any barriers that you may have experienced, or even rejection, and how you handled that?
Well, when I went into administrations, well, let me step back. When I was hired as a meter maid, we had to take the civil service. Blacks had to take the civil service exam. Then when I went into administrations, they said I had to be able to type at least 35 words a minute, but the meter maids who went into records prior to me, they didn't have to do anything. They just went in and didn't know nothing.
Right.
And they got the job.
Wow. Wow. So you had to do some things that nobody else had to do to get the same job. What about pay? Was pay, I'm sure pay, well, did you notice that pay was different? I'm sure it was different from male to female, but what about white female to black female?
It was a difference. It was a great difference.
Yeah.
I think we were making, when I went into administration's salary tray, $7,000 a year.
Wow.
$7,000. Big dollar. I don't know what Ethel was making, but that wasn't a whole lot.
Right. But you guys did not obviously let that deter you. Tell me why, knowing that you were facing obvious discrimination, if nothing else but pay discrimination. Why did you decide to stay there? I'll ask you first, Miss Ethel.
Because I didn't have a college education in DC back in 1971, $8,500. That was more. That was it was like being a millionaire back in $8,500. I got my first car, and I'm telling you, it was great. But when I had to relocate back to South Carolina, I took over a $2,000 cut in pay. I can't remember what the start was. I can't remember. But about 2 months after being on the force here, my lieutenant took me outside one day and said that they were going to give me a raise, not to tell anybody. So that was a plus. And then 2 or 3 months later, they let me work undercover, plain clothes with the investigative unit. So and the chief, everything I wanted, and all I had to do was ask the chief.
Wow. Who was the chief of police then at the time? Who was the chief of police?
Bill Cawthon.
Mill Coffin. Okay. We're talking to Ethel Greene, first African American and first female patrol officer, Estelle Young, first African American and first captain with the City of Columbia. Miss Estelle, tell us how you came to become captain.
Well, I did a lot of community programs. And I guess because of my activities and involvement in the community afforded me the opportunity to become captain. You didn't have to take a test for captain, but you would have to have been into I'm trying to think of a word that I need to use. You would have to be in, I can't think of the word I want to use.
All right, well, that's fine. But you became captain. And
I became captain. Prior to becoming captain, I was an inspector, first inspector ever in the Columbia Police Department. And I'm sure it was because of my involvement in the community with organizations, with our youth, with the churches, just everybody.
Yeah. Both of you over your years with the Columbia Police Department. And Captain Young, how many years were you there?
40.
40. And Miss Ethel, how many years were you there?
From 73 until 75.
Okay.
You ask, or maybe you haven't asked, but I took the job not to make history or to be called a trailblazer. I was a single parent at the time, and I had to feed my son and myself.
Yeah.
So that was another job that paid a little more without a college education.
Right.
I did have business school education, like Estelle say. I had typing, shorthand, and business English, and most of my other jobs were in administration. So that offered a little more finances into
Well, both of you during your time won several awards. That's your Law Enforcement Trailblazer Award there. Miss Ethel, we've got a picture here with you, Captain Young, with Strom Thurmond. Met a lot of people, did a lot of things. Again, here's some other awards, pictures of awards that you got. So received both of you during your time at the police department. And as you said, Ethel, Miss Ethel, you weren't trying to make history, but you did make history.
I did.
You know, yes. And so what did you tell other African Americans and other women that came to the force after you got there? Did you try to recruit more? And if and when women and African Americans came, would you pull them to the side? And if so, what would you tell them?
First of all, I would tell them to respect themselves. They're police officers, not police women. They're police officers.
Right.
And go in with a lot of respect, and you'll get a lot of respect. Estelle mentioned that she had name calling. I had very little of that. One of the main things, they wanted to know my sexual orientation. Why a woman want to be a police officer? So So they questioned my sexual orientation. But I'm very much
what about you, Captain Young? What were you telling women and African Americans as you noticed more and more were entering into the police department?
Well, I would tell them that it was a very prestigious job. It had many opportunities to go places they wouldn't go as a regular citizen. And it would open up a whole lot of doors for them. And we could also protect our youth within the community if we were hired as police women.
Yeah. What do you think about law enforcement today? I want to get your thoughts. So much has happened, I'm sure, from the time that you guys started back in the early 60s and 70s to now, even since you've both, have left the force. What are your thoughts on law enforcement today?
Back when I was a police officer, Trey, crime wasn't as high as it is now. People respected the law more, and I respected people.
Right.
I don't care what socioeconomic group they were in. I said yes, sir, to the alcoholic on the street. It didn't matter. If you respect people, people will respect you. And that was my main thing when I was walking the beat, because I wanted to be safe. I wanted to go home in the evening to my son, and I respected people. I don't care who the ladies of the night. I talked to them many times patrolling and on midnight shift, and we just had beautiful conversations. I respected them.
Yeah.
You respect, and you accomplish a lot by respecting people.
Yeah. Yeah. You make such a great point, Miss Ethel, and I want to lead by asking you, Captain Young, do you think that maybe that respect is missing today in law enforcement?
Yes. And the reason being, I think because of the change, because of the inclined numbers in arrests, officers have so much to contend with. There's been so many change in the laws. We didn't have to contend with people on the street having larger guns than the police. When I was on the force, but now officers have to be ever so careful about what they say, what they do, and how they do it.
That's right.
I think if I wasn't in law enforcement long time ago, Trey, if I was in it now, I'd be praying for the day for retirement.
Wow.
Because the things are so different. People has less respect for law enforcement.
Yeah.
And the officers have a lot to contend with, because most of the people that we deal with don't understand the chances that we take on a day-to-day basis, that when we leave home in the morning, because we're a walking target.
Yeah.
We're not sure if we're going to go back at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I just pray for the officers every day, because we need police on the street. And, people say all the time, defund the police. But I used to tell some of the kids in the classroom, if you had a moment in life where there was no law enforcement, what would you do?
Right.
And you know what most of the kids used to tell me from the onset? I go rob a bank. And I'm going, how many people do you know would be out there wanting to rob that same bank?
Right.
So would you really make it? And they said, well, I never thought about it in that likeness. But people doesn't have the respect for law enforcement that they had long time ago, because when we were growing up, everybody was afraid of the police.
Right.
So you did what they asked you to do immediately. But now many parents feel, oh, it's not necessary to respect the police. But yes, it is.
Right.
Because they are authority.
Yeah.
And if they weren't there, just think about the things that would happen to our citizens, not every day, but every minute of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Danielle Lake says, what rich history these ladies have. They said that you're very modest when you speak about your careers, but you are trailblazers. Thank you, Danielle, for your comment. And thank you so much for watching. Ladies, what are you up to now? Miss Ethel, what you doing now with all your free time?
Oh, I don't have free time. I work for the sheriff department part-time. I work for a program called Project Hope. HOPE, helping our precious elderly. And that's what we do. We assist the elderly. I go out and recruit seniors who live alone, or they have some kind of medical disability, and I recruit them, sign them up, and I call them every week, sometimes a couple of times a week. I take them little things, and I let them know that during the year, the sheriff department offers batteries, fans, and water. Those are the things that the sheriff department, but I go around to different churches, get food. The ones that don't have cars, I get the food and distribute it to my seniors. I say they're my seniors.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And Miss Captain Young, what you got going on? I know that you're doing a lot of traveling all over the world.
I do a lot of travel, and I assist seniors. Sometimes they just call me and say, can you help me do whatever? And I'm there. Mm-hmm. But basically, I travel, Trey. I've worked 40 years.
Yeah.
So I owe me the time now. So I just travel and work in the community, doing many activities through my church.
Yeah. Well, ladies, you all have earned what you are doing. You're Miss Captain Young, you've earned to travel. Miss Ethel, you're still in the game. And I always say, I think I will always be doing some kind of work in broadcasting. I think it's in y'all blood. I mean, just even with you, Captain Young, you said you're still out there helping people. I think when you love something, it gets in you. And
that's right.
And you'll always be doing it. So not only are we so fortunate and so blessed that you were there so many years ago at the onset to lay the foundation, we're so incredibly blessed that you're still out there in the community doing it too. Estelle Young, first African-American and first captain with the City of Columbia. Miss Ethel Greene, first African-American, first female patrol officer with the City of Columbia. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Good luck to you. Congratulations. God bless. And most of all, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being women. Thank you for being African-American women. Thank you for being women that we can look up to, admire, and emulate ourselves to. We salute you today and every day. Thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to go on one of those trips with y'all.
Come on. We'll be glad to have you.
Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Wasn't that lovely? Oh, man. I actually have chills talking to those two ladies because, like I said, they are trailblazers in our community. Listen, if you have a story or initiative that could help someone cope with COVID, please email booking@copingwithtretailor.com. Booking@copingwithtretailor.com. The information is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. If you have a product or service that could help someone cope with COVID, please email copingwithtretailor@gmail.com. We would love for you to be a proud sponsor, just like In It Together SC and the Diabetes and Action Council. They sponsor Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. And of course, the Fifth Circuit Solicitor's Office, Attorney Byron Gibson, they sponsor every second Thursday. With no justice, no peace. Our other sponsors include Black Pages Black Expo. Columbia Black Expo is coming May 20th and 21st. Anthony Anderson, Kiara Kiki Sheard, and more. The Comet Bus System. Also, Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall, Palmetto Media Connection, Javis Tax Services, and Agape Counseling and Training Services. Now, coming up tomorrow, Dr. Jane Kelly, a state assistant epidemiologist, is going to join us with a COVID update. Couple of things to tell you about with COVID. The mask mandate is getting ready to drop. They're getting ready to also drop uninsured help for the vaccine and for medical coverage. And she's going to tell us also about more COVID updates. And then we'll talk to Krista Williams. You may remember her from running for city council last year. Well, she's bringing a much needed resource to North Columbia. She's going to tell us about her Uncle Willie's grocery store. That and more coming up tomorrow on Coping with Tre Tailor. As usual, I leave you with a reading. We're reading from Conversations with God with Cheryl Williams with Agape Counseling and Training Services. This says, I want so much to bless you exceedingly and abundantly more than you can think or imagine. Eyes have not seen and ears have not heard the things that I have prepared for you, God says. The blessings are here and you must open up to receive them. You must trust that I will do what I say, Jesus says. You must call those things that are not as they are. You are limiting me, God says. You're not allowing me to bless you. Take your hand off and receive your blessings now. Man, that was a good one. What are you doing to prevent yourself from getting the blessings that not only God promised you, but that he wants to give to you? Take your hand off and let God do what he does. Hey, I am Tre Tailor. Thank you again so much for joining us on Coping with Tre Tailor. Until the next time, I wish you peace, abundant blessings. Take care. Stay well. God bless. Don't forget to get your vaccine. And I'm a masker, so I still think you should wear your mask. If for nothing else, the pollen over your nose and under your chin. We'll see you tomorrow.
Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdheck.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC, healthy people, healthy communities. In it together and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, presenting Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Log on to columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Services. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their lives. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, contact Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. And Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID, brought to you by SCDHEC. In it together, the Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.